Welcome to the second episode of the series I'm calling STA1. Really? This is where we take a look at a classic Atari ST review from the magazine ST Action. You see, an ST1 award was supposedly given to the best game of the month, or one of the best games of the month, the game that truly stood out. But the question is, did they really stand out, or was something else going on? Released by Sega in 1986, Outrun was a sensation. Designed by the legendary Yu Suzuki, it wasn't just a racing game, it was a driving holiday. You cruised down the sun-drenched highways in a sleek red Ferrari Testarossa, with the wind in your hair and your choice of 3 incredible radio tracks. It featured groundbreaking sprite scaling that made the world rush towards you in a way nobody had seen before. Its branching paths at the end of each stage meant every trip was unique. It was the epitome of style, speed, and the perfect 80s arcade vibe. Naturally, with that kind of success, every home computer publisher wanted a piece of the action, and for the Atari ST, that responsibility fell to a developer named Probe Software and the publisher US Gold. The Atari ST port of Outrun attempted to capture the essence of the arcade original's gameplay on a 16-bit home computer. Players controlled the same Atari Testarossa from a third-person rear perspective, racing against a timer to reach a series of checkpoints. The game retained the non-linear branching paths. At the end of each stage, the road forks, allowing the player to choose their route to one of 5 different final destinations. The ST version aimed to replicate this experience, with the goal being to reach the finish line before the timer expires, all while weaving through traffic, avoiding obstacles and the police. A collision with another car or a roadside object results in a crash, which causes a brief delay and eats into precious remaining time. Despite its technical limitations compared to the powerful arcade hardware, the ST version of Outrun was a significant commercial success. According to Atari Mania, it was the first 16-bit home computer game to break into the UK's top 10 best-selling games chart. It topped the UK's ST charts, of course, reaching the #1 spot in August and September of 1988. The game's success was not limited to its own platform. By 1988, it was the highest-selling version of Outrun on any computer in the UK, outselling versions for the ZX Spectrum, Commodore 64, and the vaunted Amiga. The commercial success of the ST port demonstrates its popularity and appeal, at least back then, to a wide audience, solidifying its place as a classic on the platform, in 1988 at least. So, did it really deserve it? Well, according to Atari ST Action magazine and its STA1 ranking, it did. ST Action gave the game an overall score of 84%, with a breakdown of 86% for graphics, but only 68% for sound, and a whopping 91% for addictiveness. Right away, that low sound score should raise an eyebrow, considering how integral the music was to the arcade experience. The review starts off promisingly enough, with reviewer JS saying that Probe had the daunting task of converting the ultimate arcade game and 9 months of development time. Have they succeeded? Well, according to ST Action, yes they did. Let's look at the quotes. All 3 of the opinion reviewers had good things to say about the conversion. The main reviewer, JS, called it a first-class conversion with smooth scrolling and responsive joystick controls. Opinion reviewer SM added, "It's surprisingly not bad, with good graphics. The only thing they didn't like was the crash animation." And finally, the third opinion reviewer, HG, called the graphics merely excellent for home computers, and not out of this world like the arcade. What's evident from these opinions, and from me replaying the game today for the first time in nearly 40 years, is that they were partially right for the time. With a couple exceptions, there were not many good arcade conversions on the ST when this review was written. But the best of them in October 1988 was Buggy Boy, and it runs circles around this conversion. My guess is that the outrun ports on 8-bit machines, with the possible exception of the C64 conversion, which has an odd history all of its own, were so dire that anything that resembled the arcade was going to get a decent review from this team. But was all of the praise in this review really deserved? To figure that out, we need to look beyond the pages of ST Action. When we turn our attention to other sources, does a different picture really emerge? Ace Magazine gave it an even higher 87%, commenting, "This is one of the better ST racers on offer, and just shows what the machine can do with careful programming." The Games Machine review was slightly more sobering, but still very positive. They said ST Outrun has been worth the wait, and is an admirable conversion of an incredible coin-op. And yet, don't expect too much of the game, even though it's on the ST, in their 79% review. Even CVG was kind but not glowing in their 70% review, saying a lot was expected from the 16-bit conversion and no one need be embarrassed about it. If you own an ST, you simply mustn't be without a copy of Outrun, a game to keep coming back to. Alternatively, ST User, which had notoriously high ranks for games, gave it a whopping 90%. But the most trusted magazine, at least to many ST fans, ST Format, when it was ST Amiga Format, gave it 71%. But in a review 2 years later, rated it only 38%, saying, "Go for one of the more recent racing games instead." This is most likely because games like Vroom had been released and showed exactly how to make a good 16-bit racer on the Atari ST. So is ST Action's 84% STA1 really an outlier? It's not even the highest score given to the game that month. Head to any Atari ST forum or any really retro gaming subreddit and you'll find the consensus that the Outrun port for the ST, along with the Amiga, are notoriously poor. The sound is anemic and the scrolling is jerky, a far cry from the fluid movement described in the review, and the overall feeling is simply lackluster. Most people agree it's a terrible conversion and they recommend playing the superior new Amiga 1200 conversion or the updated STE version, or just emulating the arcade classic. So, was this game really STA1 worthy? Well, of course not. Not even close. I do have a slight fondness for this game though. I played it a lot on my old Atari ST. In fact, one of the first things we purchased for Atari ST was an Ocean game pack that included a version of Outrun. It did not deserve an 84% from ST Action though. I would have given it a 75% or less. So we have to ask the classic question, was there payola? Now, I'm not pointing any fingers, but publisher US Gold was one of the biggest in the UK. They had deep pockets and famously spent a lot of money on advertising in magazines. The timing is, shall we say, convenient. Well, I'm not saying a reviewer got a fat stack or even a Ferrari toy car, but it certainly seems like US Gold had the kind of advertising budget that could convince a magazine editor maybe that their poor conversion was a must-buy. All joking aside, it's a shame really, because the game was a legend in the arcade and it deserved a good proper home conversion. So STA1 for Outrun was, in my opinion, a misjudgment. Maybe influenced by the publisher's ad spend, maybe just poor reviewing, or maybe a relic of its time when no 8-bit console computer or CGA PC game came even close to matching the quality of this port, and that masked some of the problems in many reviewers' minds. Whatever the reason, it might have been one of the best games reviewed that month, but in hindsight, it certainly was not up to the quality of an STA1 rated game. But all is not lost. As is often the case with the homebrew community, when a developer fails, the fans succeed. As noted before, there is a homebrew enhanced version of Outrun developed for the Atari ST and released in 2019 by Peter Jorgensen and Ian Morrison, offering a significant upgrade to the original 1988 release. This updated version takes advantage of the STE's more advanced hardware capabilities to deliver a superior gameplay experience. Key improvements include a much improved color palette, making the visuals more vibrant and closer to the arcade original. Additionally, some of the game's sprites were redesigned and the frame rate was increased, resulting in smoother and more enjoyable gameplay. This enhanced edition also benefits from the STE's Blitter chip for hardware-accelerated graphics. While not an official release from the original developers, this passion project provides a glimpse into what a more powerful Atari system could offer the racing title even in 1988. So, the STA won for Outrun, in my opinion, a complete misjudgment. Maybe influenced by a publisher's ad spend, maybe just poor reviewing, or maybe reviewers seeing a pretty good racing game for the first time on the ST. It certainly wasn't one of the best games of the month though. But that doesn't mean Probe Software didn't have any talent. They were a capable team, especially with their later work. If you're looking for a genuine good ST port by Probe, I'd highly recommend Midnight Resistance, a fantastic run-and-gun game from Data East that Probe converted with a lot more care. It's fast, frantic, and a much better example of what the Atari ST can do. And that wraps up the second episode of STA1 Really. Join me next time as we look at another STA1 reward and ask ourselves, did it deserve it? These are not our sponsors, just sources that we love and we want you to know about too. So don't forget, for your daily dose of Atari news, check out BCB Coffee Boy and Gen X Grown Up. For up-to-date homebrew news for most Atari systems, check out Zero Page Homebrew and Saberman Retro News. For weekly retro news, check out the Retro Hour and This Week in Retro. For in-depth Atari 2600 dives, check out the Atari 2600 Game by Game podcast. For the Atari ST, you must be checking out Atari Legend, Atari Crypt, and Atari Mania. For weekly Atari ST game videos, check out the Gears of Games and the Joy of Sticks YouTube channels. For the Atari 8-bit, you can't go wrong with the Antic Podcast or Atari Mania also. And for the best in classic arcade game deep dives, look no further than the Pie Factory Podcast. Also, for daily blogs on tech, check out the Silicon Underground website. And again, have fun playing your favorite arcade conversions, and especially the real STA1 rated games on the machine of your choice in the vertical blank.
We were children of the Silicon Revolution, an X generation conscripted to fight the console and home computer wars. A product of an analog 70s childhood, we came of digital age in the 80s, believing we could affect the world 8 bits at a time. Armed with joysticks, full-stroke keyboards, Jolt Cola, and MTV haircuts, we proceeded into the vertical blank. There, we stayed up late at night, devising incantations from D&D rulebooks and beginner's all-purpose symbolic instruction code. Video games were the match, and programming was the fuse, as the infinite possibilities of the digital world exploded into the internet age to come. We are Generation Atari.
Into the vertical blank.